Hey everyone, good Monday morning. It's Nathan. I'm out here with my dog, Sheila. Hey Sheila. I got the devotion today, so sit tight. I hope you all had a great Palm Sunday. Hopefully you had some good family time. Hopefully you enjoyed the weather, whatever it is that you did. But in the midst of this quarantine, in the midst of us kind of forcing to slow down our lives, at least for me, I think the case for a lot of people is, even though our lives have been forced to slow down, our minds are so preoccupied, and we're constantly trying to find ways to keep ourselves from being bored. The average time a teenager to young adult spends screen time a day is 4 to 6 hours. And it goes down a little bit for, as it gets to the older generations, but still not by a whole ton. And I was reading this book called The Tech-Wise Family, and something that the author wrote that I thought was really impactful was we gave technology to younger generations to keep them from getting bored, but what we've created is a more easily bored generation. And I think that's true in somewhat of all our lives, is that we don't like to sit around and do nothing, it seems. We like to keep our minds preoccupied, and in this midst of quarantine, some of us are just, maybe, laying around and getting some good show watching in, or getting some yard work in, or whatever that is. But how many of us are just sitting and listening to the Lord, spending time each day just to be in silence, allow our minds to not be preoccupied by a lot of things? I would say for a lot of us, no matter how old or young you are, we're constantly preoccupied. I mean, you go out to eat and you see families that are constantly on their phone, or how many of us have watched a Netflix movie or show recently, and yet we've checked our phones 5 or 6 times in the middle of it? How many of us have actually just sat and just been with someone without us constantly thinking about checking our email or checking social media or whatever it is, Facebook? And I think the Lord spoke to Elijah in a very unique way that I think God could be using this time to speak to us if we'll listen. And so in 1 Kings 19, verse 11, God's speaking to Elijah, and God says, "Go out and stand before me on the mountain," the Lord told him. And as Elijah stood there, the Lord passed by, and a mighty windstorm hit the mountain. It was such a terrible blast that the rocks were torn loose, but the Lord was not in the wind. After the wind there was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake there was a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire there was a sound of a gentle whisper. When Elijah heard it, he wrapped his face in his cloak and went out and stood at the entrance of the cave. I think a lot of us, even though we've been forced to slow down, we haven't really slowed down our minds, and we're watching the news, reading the news, and our minds are just constantly focused on other things. And I think sometimes we're looking for God to be in the earthquakes, or in the windstorms, or in the firestorms, or we're looking for this big revelation, God move in this amazing, majestic way. And maybe, just maybe, God's wanting to come to us in a whisper, in a silence. And maybe we need to get away from the noise. Jesus, Scripture tells us that Jesus often went away with the Lord. He went off into the woods. He went off to be alone with God. And maybe as we're spending this quarantine away from our normal lives, maybe we spend that time away from preoccupying our time with news or social media. And I'm not saying completely neglect that if that's something you really enjoy, but maybe spend some time each day just not even fixated on that. Put your phone away, keep it in your room, go out for a walk, go sit on your front porch, sit on your back porch, so let your mind focus on God. And I think God will speak to us in ways that we're thinking it's going to be this grand, kind of crazy thing, but maybe we'll be sitting there and God will come to us in a whisper. And the interesting thing is that Elijah, once he heard the whisper, he knew it was God. Covered his face and went out to talk to God. And maybe God's trying to give us direction, give us peace, give us joy, give us clarity, give us something for the future. God's trying to speak to us and just talk to us. So, especially as we're entering in Holy Week and we're getting close to Easter, I know I'm going to try this week, but let us all try to just spend some time with the Lord. I think it's great that churches, I think it's great that other organizations are reaching out to us through social media and Facebook. I mean, we're coming to you through Facebook to try to give you daily devotions and to keep us all connected. But maybe after you listen to it, take some time away from it. Take an hour or 2, 3 hours tomorrow. Just sit in your yard, garden, or whatever it is. Just get away. Spend some time in silence and ask God to just speak. And thank God for the day. Thank God for our lives. Thank God for a roof over our heads. Thank God for sunshine and a place to live. Thank God that we have families and friends and loved ones that care about us. Thank God that whatever it is, thank God and allow your heart to be in a posture of thankfulness, so that way you can receive a word from Him. That way you can receive just God coming to you in a whisper. So I hope you'll have a good Monday. And can't wait to see you for Easter, social distancing wise, as long as we're still able to do that. And can't wait for us to all be back together again whenever that is. So have a good Monday. God bless. See y'all later.